Because everything that
Meta learning.
how to do 3 times faster,
Learning how to
how to
learn.
remember names, how to do the things that, how to get to inbox zero, how to do the things that, how to be focused, concentrate, critical think, solve problems, all the important things that really is our life, right? But then when I finished it, you know, I talked to friends like you and everybody else, and it's like, this is a really good self-help book, but if somebody found it just on the street, they still, even they know what to do, they still wouldn't do it. Like, how come you want to learn Spanish or something else and you put it off, or it takes longer than you should? Because method is only one of the 3 parts. And so this is the limitless model. And I want everybody to think about a subject or some area of your life where you're feeling held back. It could be your relationship. It could be you're not making progress in your career. It could be maybe in your physical performance or wellness. Think about one area where you're stuck in a box, right? Now, a box is like a cage, 3D box, and 3D is 3 dimensions. What keeps you in the box? 3 forces, and these are the 3 M's.
Okay.
And I want everyone to draw a circle, and in that circle, we're going to draw a Venn diagram. You know what a Venn diagram is? 3 intersecting circles. And the first circle is your mindset, 3 M's. And I always alliterate everything because it helps you to be able to remember it better. First one is your mindset. Now, your mindset are your assumptions, your attitudes about something. Now, let's break that down. For me, functionally, what your mindset is about this subject, I want people to make this very personal. Think about something, an area you're held back. This is what you believe is possible, is your mindset. It is what you believe you are capable of. It is what you believe you deserve is your part of your mindset, because that's a big thing. That's your thermostat, right? If somebody has the mindset of, like, I could teach someone the method of how to remember names, but their mindset is, I'm stupid.
I don't deserve to remember names, or
Right.
I'm not capable of it.
Exactly. Or I'm too old, or whatever it is. That's their mindset.
My brain doesn't work that way.
Exactly. Then the method won't take hold.
It won't matter.
Exactly. So this is the formula here.
So how do you learn to believe that you are capable?
So we'll go into this. Yeah. That's exactly what the book does. I take people through a process called unlimiting. It's a word that I coined years ago. Unlimiting is different than unlimited. Unlimiting is like the process of removing limits.
Limiting beliefs.
Exactly. Or behaviors, or habits, right? So unlimiting is an active word where you're redrawing the boundaries and borders of your life. Limitless is not about being perfect. Limitless is about advancing and progressing beyond what you believe is possible. That's what this book is about. Now, I apply that towards accelerated learning, so you can learn your languages and, you know, give speeches without notes and all that stuff. But really, it's a process of liberating yourself out of that box. So one of the dimensions that keep you in that box is your mindset, right? And we can go deep into how to change negative beliefs and everything. And I talk about the 7 lies. Lies, for me, again, is an acronym. Lie is a limited idea entertained. Because it's not true. It's not true that you don't deserve it. It's not necessarily true that you're stupid, but it's an idea we're giving energy to. We're entertaining that idea in that moment. I show people how to unravel it in the 3-step process. But that's the mindset. Okay. Right? Now, the second M, you can have the greatest mindset and believe everything is possible, you're capable, you deserve it. But if you don't have the second M, which is motivation, you're not getting out of that box. Right? In your career.
I believe I can do it, but I'm going to sit here and eat chips on the couch.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And so your motivation, for me, is your drive, it's your purpose, it's the vitality that you bring to something. Now, most people think motivation is a lie. And in some respects, it is, because the way a lot of people perceive motivation is just rah, rah, get excited, get hyped up, and next day, nothing changes. So the evidence of motivation is something is happening. There's an action. There's a new action taking place. And if you're not doing action, you're not motivated. No matter what you say, if you're not doing it, it's better well done than well said. Even like a lot of people on social media, they promise things, but prove it.
It's better well done than well said.
Take it to action. Because knowledge is not power, it's potential power. Applying it makes it powerful. So motivation for me is a 3-step formula. And here's the formula. And I go deep in this book because there's a chapter on each part. The key to sustainable motivation, how to overcome procrastination. If you're putting things off, this is the key. It's this. P times E times S3. Now, this is a formula for sustainable motivation, not just a surge of motivation, right? We've all watched the Limitless movie where he takes a pill and he can learn languages and read really fast and remember everything. And Dr. Mark Hyman, who wrote the foreword of the book, is a mutual friend of both of ours, and I know he's been on your show. He says that there is no genius pill, but Jim gives you the process
Ooh,
for
I
a
like it.
brighter brain,
I
right?
like
Like
it.
it's a process. And it's
Process,
so
baby.
nice, right?
Yeah, it's good.
But going back to this, when he had a surge of motivation,
It's all
then
about the
when the
process.
pill wore off, it goes back to no
Okay.
motivation. But this is the key. There's no pill, there's a process. And these three things, P times E times S3, is sustainable for the rest of your life. Because I've lived on no sleep for over a decade, right? My sleep has
Process.
gotten much better since, of recent, just some breakthroughs in medicine and everything else like
Process
that.
activates.
But, I had sustainable motivation. I was still doing all the conferences, still doing my podcast every week, still speaking and traveling and doing all this stuff because I had these three things. Number one, so the P stands for purpose. Now again, if you feel not motivated in any area of your life, some people can have motivation. Now some people are very motivated to sit on the couch and binge watch Netflix. They're highly motivated to do that, right? But if you're lacking motivation to work out consistently, and now here's another lie, limited idea entertained, is that you have to enjoy the activity, right? Like, it doesn't mean that you have to do that. Like, I was having this conversation with Tom Bilyeu, right? And he was like, I work out at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock every morning. I was like, do you enjoy it? He's like, no, I don't like working out at all. But he's motivated, doesn't miss a day. So he has the motivation. So motivation doesn't mean you enjoy it. Like, every morning, I do my cold showers, like Wim Hof, right?
It's not fun all the time, but
Exactly. I grew up in the Northeast. I hate the cold, right? But I do my cold showers or my ice baths. I post all the time on Instagram about doing it because I know I have a purpose, right? So I don't enjoy it, but the P in the formula is purpose. Reasons reap results. And if you get the reasons, so
Ooh,
even
reasons,
if
results,
I'm not
son.
sleeping
Reason,
in my
results.
sleep, I have a purpose. I have a reason to help people every single day. I want every single person that comes in contact with me, whether it's on my podcast or a video or a book, their brain is better off because of it. And so that's my reason. And really, you know my story. Like my first student 3 decades ago almost, she read 30 books in 30 days. And what was her purpose? Her mother was dying of terminal cancer, 2 months to live, 60 days. And the book she was reading, health, wellness, energy, right? And she ended up saving her mom's life. And that's when I realized that knowledge is power, learning is our superpower. And I dedicated my life to make that kind of difference. And that's what, so I have my reasons to do something. So I don't have to pump myself up.
Knowledge is
So P is
superpower.
purpose,
Affirmation
habit
is
is
your
reason.
superpower.
And it can't be
Knowledge is
personal,
superpower. Your affirmation.
right?
Superpower. Our affirmation change the situation.
Like, who's
Affirmation
power
is your
to do
superpower.
this activity? Who's watching you? Who's
Speak it.
role modeling you?
Speak it.
Right? Who's counting
Speak
on
it
you
daily.
to show up today?
Speak it.
It can be painful too, but if it gets you to move, that's what's important. Have that reason, purpose. This E. Now here my mind does this thought experiment, scientific experimentations, right? If somebody just has a reason, are they always motivated? Are there any cases where they're not motivated? And I said yes, if they're lacking the E, energy. So somebody can have a reason to work out, or they can have a reason to read, or learn Spanish. But if they're trying to do it late at night and they didn't sleep the night before, or they had a
energy.
big processed meal,
it's hard to have the motivation.
exactly, in their food coma, they can't be motivated because they lack energy. So in the book, I talk about 10 keys for brain energy. The 10 things that I do to light up my brain. And one of them are brain foods. Another one is optimizing your sleep. So I do a whole area of what I've learned really moves the needle for maximizing your sleep. Because how's your thought process if you don't sleep? How's your focus?
Foggy.
How's your memory? How you're making good decisions, right? I heard that was the advice presidents give other presidents is like don't make a big decision if you didn't get a good night's sleep, right? So I talk about sleep. So in the book, in Motivation, we do a whole section on finding your purpose and even life purpose and passion, and a whole area on optimizing your energy. Now you have energy to do it. I ask myself, okay, you have a purpose for something, to work out or whatever. You have, or to start this business, you have the energy. In what case, if you're like doing this critical thinking, in what case won't you be motivated? Let's say you want to start a business, whatever. You're just procrastinating on starting that business. Number one, you have the motivation, you really need it, and you know why. You have the energy because you're eating the right foods, you're maximizing your sleep, you're with not energy vampires. Yes, there is. S3. What the problem is you're making it too big in your mind. That will keep you from being motivated. Starting a business, like where do you even start? Or getting that perfect relationship or having perfect health, that's way, way too big. So what do? Small, simple steps. That's what
Small,
keeps
simple
people
steps. Simplify,
unmotivated.
baby.
They can have the
Small,
reason,
simple steps.
the
Yes,
purpose,
yes,
they have
yes.
the energy, unlimited energy, but they don't know where to start.
Small,
And
simple
because
steps
they
is the
make it
key to
too big in their
prosperity.
mind.
Small, simple
And a
steps.
confused mind doesn't do anything. Confused mind doesn't do anything. So clarity is power.
I like that.
So
Clarity
small,
is
simple
power.
step, all you have to do is ask a magic question. What is the smallest action I could take where I can't fail? It allows me to give me some progress, but I can't fail. What's the smallest step? And I cite the work in here of the habit experts that you and I have interviewed. You know, Dr. B.J. Fogg's or the James Clear's Atomic Habits, and really my take on how to make sustainable habits, because what you do repeatedly becomes that habit. But it starts with a small, simple step. What's an example of that? I want people to read a book a week. It will change their life. I think if there's one thing that would change their life immediately, long term, just read every day. Reading is to your mind what exercises your body even more than audio. And my podcast, I do
Reading
listen
is
to audio. I
is
do
exercise to the
listen
mind.
because it activates a different
It's
part
like
of the brain.
exercise to the
Also,
body.
and I listen to audio.
Reading is
when I
exercise to
drive,
the
when I
mind.
work out. But
And
when
working
people
out
are
is
tested
exercise to
in
the
terms of
body.
what they read,
Believe
expressive
it.
comprehension, what they listen to, reading, the actual will be more and they'll understand more. You know why? Is not only does it activate a different part of your brain because it's active, because listening can be passive, like watching a movie or anything can be very passive. You don't have to get involved, but reading forces you to get involved. But the second reason why is because usually when someone's listening to something, they're doing something else. And they're trying to multitask. They're cleaning their house, they're working out, they're driving, so their attention's not fully on what they're listening to. So that's why the comprehension is down. But reading every single day is a great activity. But I don't tell people, read an hour a day. A small, simple step to get
Thank
them to start
you.
reading is read one sentence.
Thank
That's a
you.
small, simple
Affirmation.
step.
Small, simple steps.
That's a small, simple step that you can't do,
Yes.
right? And nobody's going to stop at one sentence. The example Dr. B.J. Fogg talks about with tiny habits is, hey, we know flossing is good for your longevity.
Just do 1 tooth.
One tooth. And who's going to stop at one tooth, right? So how do you break it down? And really, motivation is energy management. It's really
Motivation is
about
energy management. Ooh wee.
when you have clarity and purpose, it gives you energy, right?
Yeah, clarity and purpose, it gives you energy. I'ma say it again. When you have clarity and purpose, it gives you energy. Right here,
Energy requires very little effort
right
and
now.
output. And there's something in memory called the Zeigarnik effect. It's by a psychologist, a woman who in Europe noticed that in the cafe she frequents, that the waitstaff would remember all the orders until they were delivered. And once they were delivered, they would forget it. And the Zeigarnik effect, which is her last name, means that the mind doesn't like open loops. So and all of the series on that you binge watch knows this, because at the end they open up a loop.
Yes.
And you're like, one more. Who does that? Like one more, and you end up watching until like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. because it doesn't like the open loops. Well, starting something like an order, remembering someone's order, and then it's delivered, it closes the loop. Well, when you start something anywhere, your mind still keeps an open loop about it, so it's more likely to finish. And that's another way to overcome procrastination. Break it down into small, simple steps where you can't fail. That's the 3-step formula. So I did a chapter, so this is really 3 books in one. It's a whole book on mindset, on how to eliminate negative self-talk, how to be able to get rid of negative beliefs that you don't deserve it, you're not capable of it, how to have optimization. So a chapter on purpose, a chapter on energy, a chapter on small, simple steps, and then I added a chapter on habits and flow. Because the ultimate state, and you've had Stephen Kotler and all these amazing people on here talking about flow state, is when you're in the zone. Where you lose flow states is you lose your sense of self, you lose it's effortless, and you lose your sense of time, and there's no motivation required because you're just in the zone. You know that as an athlete, when you're in the zone or you're on stage and it's just coming through you, right? We all have those moments. So we debunk and apply this method for a whole chapter on flow. And then finally, you can have the mindset and motivation and still be stuck in that box. Because again, let's say you believe everything is possible, and that's your mindset, and you're capable, and you deserve it, and you're motivated, but if you don't have the last M, which are the methods, then you're stuck in that box.
Okay.
You could believe that you
Methods,
deserve this
motivating
income.
process. Methods.
You could
Work hard all day
motivation,
long.
but if you're doing the wrong things, then you're not going to get the result. If you're doing the wrong marketing tactics, or if you're doing the wrong things in a relationship, right? If you're using bad advice. And in here, I document the example of learning, because we learned very poor, antiquated methods of learning in school. It was rote repetition. To learn something, repeat it 100 times in your mind. And the problem is it just takes a lot of time. And it's not the optimal way the brain learns. The human brain doesn't learn through consumption, it learns through creation, right?
Oh.
The brain does not learn by consuming, it learns by creating. And so we also learned that
Brain learns by creating, not by consuming.
Subvocalization. Subvocalization is, have you ever noticed when you're reading something, you hear that inner voice inside your head reading along with you?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's your own voice, it's not like somebody else's voice. The reason why it keeps you reading slow is if you have to say all the words in this book, you can only read as fast as you can speak. That means your reading speed is limited to your talking speed,
So how do you
not your thinking speed.
how do you limit the conversation in your mind?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because the question becomes, everybody reads about 200, 250 words per minute because that's how the average person talks.
Speaks, wow.
But do you have to say, the question becomes, analyzing, common sense, do you need to say all the words in order to understand what those words mean?
No.
The truth is no. Like when you see a stop sign, you don't say to yourself, stop, but do you comprehend what that means?
Of course.
95, exactly. And just like symbols in the book, periods, punctuation mark, you don't say question mark when you read, or comma when you read. You know, so the and there, because of all those are sight words, and you don't have to pronounce them by sound, you do it by sight. And the fastest readers actually only subvocalize the more difficult words. And so I'm not saying you
Really?
I know
So you just kind of skip through and just go through.
you read all the words, then read all the words, but you don't have to say all the words. And so that subvocalization is my example of an old method, an antiquated method that will keep you in that box of learning slow.
So let me do an example. Here's a sentence from your book, from part 2, about mindset.
Yeah.
And if I were to read this, I would read it slowly, just because that's how I'm used to it. I would say, and I already get nervous reading out loud from my childhood fears of
You're not
stumbling.
You're
The
not
deeply held beliefs, attitudes, and assumptions we create about who we are, how the world works, what we are capable of and deserve, and what is possible.
Yeah.
Mindset.
So let me show you how to actually. So one example, and there's a link in my Instagram for a free masterclass on reading, like a whole 1 hour tutorial in real time. Here, when people are reading, what I recommend is subvocalization. The key here is first acknowledge that it's there and don't try to fight it. Don't try to not subvocalize, because you know this from your study of the mind, you can't not do anything. You can't not think of a purple giraffe because you have to do it. So the more you try not to say the words, the more you're going to do it. Plus, you're going to be talking to yourself. Am I really understanding this? And you're not going to understand it because you have two things
You'll
going
get in
on
the
at
flow,
once.
yeah.
Right, exactly. And so the goal here is when you read past a certain speed, 400, there's subvocalization threshold where you can't possibly talk any faster than that. But you can understand it. Oh, perfect example. When you listen to your podcasts or audiobooks, many people exactly, and you can understand it, but you can't speak that fast. So that's proof you can think that fast but not understand it. And so here, one of the hacks that we teach in the book is to use a visual pacer. Like when you use your finger while you read, most people think this is an old antiquated method. They say don't do that because that will slow you down. But in actuality, I challenge everybody to take that master class on that link, and what you'll find is test yourself. Read without your finger, and then read for another minute with your finger, count the number of lines. Just underlining it, that second time will be 25-50% faster.
And just kind of forcing your finger to go a little faster than you would normally?
You could actually go regular, because what happens is you don't regress. A lot of people have another bad method, going back to limited methods, and we want to unlimit their methods of regressing and backskipping. You know, have you ever found yourself rereading words or rereading some? 25% of our time is wasted doing that, and that's a bad habit that we learned when we were kids.
Why do we do that? Why do we repeat a sentence or a word?
The same reason why we subvocalize, because we were taught that. Remember back in school, we were taught, public speaking. When we got in those circles and we had to pass around that book, and that book comes closer and closer and closer.
Fear and anxiety.
It just
they
right?
called my name. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I believe we learned that public speaking was something to be feared.
Yeah.
And that's where it was imprinted on us. And for some people. And it was good intention, but people can be sincere, teachers, but be sincerely wrong. And I got that. I couldn't even read at that time. So when that book came to me, I would just look at it, and it would look like hieroglyphics. Exactly. I would do that. And I would cry. It would be so embarrassing because everyone's looking at you and you have to perform. And that's where I think my fear of public speaking, why I wouldn't do the book report or speak on it and everything came from. But the other thing teachers had you do is once they know you could pronounce them, and you had to say it out loud to make sure the teacher knows you're pronouncing it phonetically, right? But later on, your teacher taught you the limit with subvocalization because he or she said, all right, read quietly to yourself or read silently to yourself. And that's where you took that external voice and you're like, in order to understand it, I have to hear it. If not outside, then inside. And it's been there ever since. So this book is about unlimiting those bad habits of learning, of rote memorization, of bad habits we make about decisions. Like, why are people dating the same people or making the same financial mistakes and everything else? It's not insanity doing the same thing over and over again. It's a bad memory. And we weren't taught decision making. So, like, in the book, I talk about 4 supervillains that hold us back. And it's really, I talk about superpowers.
Yeah.
4 supervillains, and I'll go back to the model and make this very, like, aha to everybody. 4 supervillains that are holding you and your team back. Your children back, your team back, your employees back, your spouse back. Number 1, and they're all driven by technology. Digital deluge. Digital deluge is this information overwhelm. It's like, do you feel nowadays like you can't keep up? It's like taking a sip of water out of a fire hose.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, people buy a book, but they don't read the book, right? It just sits on their shelf.
That's me.
It becomes shelf-help, not self-help, right? And here's the thing, buying a book is a different skill set than reading the book.
I'm really good at buying books.
Yes, and
I'm not that good
some
at
people are
reading it.
excellent at
I
books,
can
right?
buy books all day long.
Exactly, but reading is a different skill set. But digital deluge is a real medical condition. They call it information fatigue syndrome. Higher blood pressure, compression of leisure time, more sleeplessness. And this is happening if you own a business or you have managed a team. That 4 or 5 hours a day on estimate are we spending processing information. Just think about your team, how much they have to process, right? That means half of their salary is being paid to process and learn and read. So if someone's being paid $80,000, $40,000 is just to read something.
Oh my gosh.
So if I could double their reading speed, that's a huge amount of time. Like if it normally takes 4 hours to read something and you read it in half the time, 2 hours, what's 2 hours of the course of a year? That's like a math. And we can't even do the math because that's another one of the digital challenges.
Okay.
But that's even if you save 1 hour a day, 365 hours a year. 40-hour work weeks. How many 40-hour work weeks? 9. 2 months of productivity we get back just saving 1 hour a day on something ubiquitous like reading. That's why in this book, it will help you read every other book and
Okay.
save you time.
That's
So
amazing.
digital deluge.
Yeah.
Number 2, digital distraction. With every ring and ping and ding, every app notification, social media alert, it's training our distraction muscles. And we are so good at being distracted. That's why so much of my morning routine that people do, like something simple like brushing your teeth with the opposite hand, right? Because it engages the opposite side of your brain, which is good for making the connections, neuroplasticity. But it's also good for making you present.
You have to focus.
Right. It forces you to be in the moment. So it's something you do every day, that little things where you get a novelty where it focuses you to be here as opposed to about everything else, right? And how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you wake up first
How you do anything, how you do everything.
you should have a to-do list. I think your not to-do list, yeah, don't touch your phone first hour a day. It rewires your brain to be distracted, and also it rewires your brain to be reactive. I can't stress this enough. When you pick up your phone the first hour of the day, and a lot of people
Reactive.
talk about this, and we have videos. My video with Simon Sinek has 28 million views on just this thing on Facebook. It literally just says, don't touch your phone because it rewires your brain to be distracted and reactive because you're fighting fires. You're on the defense. Like, why are you going to check your email and voicemail and it takes you off tangent and you're not even focusing on what's most
Turn
important?
the heat on,
Like, in
please.
terms of your win. Our friend Brendan Burchard says this exactly. You're like, you got a lot of quotes that you remember, but he says, your inbox is nothing but a convenient organizational system for other people's agenda for your life.
Oh!
Wow, Brendan Burchard. Your inbox is nothing but a convenient organizational system for other people's agenda for your life. So don't go on the defense. So don't pick up your phone because when you wake up, you're in this relaxed state of awareness. You're very suggestible. So you're training your distraction and your reaction. You have to be proactive. You want to be a thermostat, not a thermometer. A thermometer.
You'll be a
reacts to the
thermostat, not a
environment.
thermometer. Woo.
Sets the environment. So digital distraction second. Third supervillain that's driven by technology that's potentially holding you back. Digital dementia. Digital dementia is where our phones become an external storage device. It keeps our to-dos, right? It keeps our phone. How many phone numbers did you know growing
Not a
up?
lot growing up.
Yeah. How many do you know now?
One.
Like, is there one person?
My own.
Is there somebody
Two,
you
maybe.
text and call all the
I
time?
know my mom's because I've had to like write it down as like
Exactly.
emergency contact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you don't have your phone with you, or your other phone is battery's dead, you can't. Now, here's the thing: nobody wants to memorize 200 phone numbers.
No.
I don't want to do that. But isn't it concerning that we've lost the ability to remember one, or a passcode, or a conversation we just had? I believe two of the most costly words in life. Yeah, in life or business, I forgot. Every time you say the words "I forgot," you lose credibility, you lose trust, you don't show you care about the person, you lose a sale. I can't tell you how many clients come to me saying, "Look, I called this person by the wrong name, and he was so offended that he didn't do the deal with me. I lost $1 million commission." Like those kind of things, right? And how are you going to show somebody you're going to care for their future, their finances, their health, their family, if you don't care enough just to remember their name? Right, so we do 13, 14 tips on just how to remember people's names. And we covered it in the previous episode also as well.
Okay.
So digital dementia is
Yep.
where it's a real source. I mean, Dr. Daniel Amen has talked about it. Other people have talked